The member for Capricornia.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister update the House on the progress of the government's efforts to fund the reconstruction of regions impacted by recent natural disasters?
The Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Capricornia for her question. And of course, she was one of many, many members in this House who spent the weeks of summer assisting communities that were hit by natural disasters. In her case, the city of Rockhampton being hit by flooding and being isolated for quite an extended period of time. But members on both sides of the House were called upon to assist their communities in that time of flooding. Members are still in some parts of the country being called upon to assist communities that have suffered flooding in recent days. During that period, as we emerged from that summer of natural disasters with the flooding and then the cyclone, I made a pledge on the nation's behalf, and that pledge was that we would not let go. We would assist the communities that had suffered so greatly during this period to rebuild. I said all Australians would be with them during the rebuilding and recovery effort, and we would get on with it with good judgment and common purpose so that we could assist these communities to rebuild and get on with their lives. Last night, two bills passed the Senate, the 51st and 52nd bill to do so in this parliament, and it was the legislation to fund the reconstruction and recovery effort. We know these disasters have come at a terrible human cost and a cost to the economy. Queensland, which suffered so badly, is over 1/5 of our economy, and early Treasury and RBA estimates suggest GDP growth will be 0.5% lower than would otherwise have been the case. Crop production will be around $1.2 billion less, $300 million less in tourism, and coal production could be 16 million tonnes less in the March quarter. As we go about this recovery and rebuilding, we do know that despite this economic setback from natural disasters, that the underlying economy is strong. And that is why it is appropriate, Mr Speaker, to pay as we go. As the economy trends back to full capacity, we won't take the soft option by deferring hard savings until 4 years from now. That's why the government took the decision to engage in savings. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. And we took the decision to defer infrastructure. Once again, it wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. And we took the decision to ask the Australian people of goodwill, to pay a flood levy, which was very fairly constructed, so that 60% of taxpayers are paying less than $1 a week. Now, of course, Mr Speaker, we made these tough decisions. We found the tough saves rather than claiming it was easy. And in doing so, we didn't play the politics of fear. We didn't cut programs to earn a cheap headline. We got on with the methodical decision-making necessary to rebuild Queensland and rebuild the nation. Can I say to the members of the parliament, as we know—
The Prime Minister will resume her seat. The member for Wannon on a point of order.
It goes to relevance, Mr Speaker. I was wondering whether the Prime Minister could outline, now that she's taxed the Victorian people, what the plan is for Victoria for the $500 million.
Member for Wannon. It is hard for me to decide whether the member for Wannon should know, on the basis of his predecessor's knowledge of the standing orders, that that was not a standing order. But I will indicate to him the next time that he interrupts proceedings in that manner, he will be dealt with. And I think that I've been overly generous to a number of people whose cries I hear and who interjected since he returned. Being a Tasmanian does not give him any special privileges, but I just warn the member for Wannon to be careful. The Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and of course we will rebuild Victoria too. But, Mr Speaker, you would recall, the House would recall, that the government's plan was met by the politics of fear. The government's plan was met by a scare campaign, led by the Leader of the Opposition. Mr Speaker, that scare campaign is silent now. And what we should learn from that example is ultimately the Leader of the Opposition's carbon pricing scare campaign will fall silent too. Indeed, there's some evidence it's already fallen silent today, because fear cannot stand up against facts, and we will be there explaining the facts.
Prime Minister.
And I thank the Leader of Government Business for his very timely reminder, and with those words, Mr Speaker, and with the Deputy Leader of the Opposition showing the intelligence she's famous for, I ask that further questions be placed on the notice paper.